with us today, whether online or here in person. Special thanks to those who traveled from afar. It's already a 7th edition of Bled Water Festival, and this year we pay special attention to a new understanding of water. In the 2 days event, you will enjoy 7 panels about water, our traditional water tasting, and many new experiences. And I hope you will all enjoy it. Now I would like to introduce Mr. Milin Patel, a water consultant, water sommelier, and our moderator from London, and invite him on the stage to say a few words. Thanks again.
Good morning, all. Hope you've had a great start this morning. And to the ministers, the delegates, to the guests that have all attended Bled this year, looking at this audience right here, it's amazing. Each individual has taken their time to be as part of this beautiful conference, this festival. So first, please give yourselves a round of applause for taking the time to be here to contribute to a better world with water. So thank you. Secondly, I would just like to say I am absolutely honored to be here today with the team at Bled. For me, it's very important being in the water industry and providing clean, safe water for all and education has been very, very important. And through my 20-year career, I have attended a number of water conferences, water conventions. And I must say, with this experience, Bled Water Festival here in Slovenia is absolutely changing the way we look at water and respect water with the panelists and the contributions from each individual and guest that we have. So from my experience, this here, what's happening in Bled is really changing the way with our relationship with water. So again, it's a beautiful thing that's being created, and Bled Water Festival definitely will hydrate your imagination today and for the future. So our second speaker that I'd like to introduce is Marko Maver, PhD, National Laboratory of Health, Environment and Food, and the Assistant Director in Slovenia. So please welcome Mr. Marko.
Thank you for this wonderful introduction. Also, thank you to the Bled Water Festival organizers for inviting us to be part of this festival for the second time running. I think it's as Slovenia's largest and central public health laboratory. It is important for us to contribute to protecting our greatest natural resource, which is water. The way we do that is in a number of ways. We do all sorts of diagnostic analysis. Our main priority as a national laboratory is environmental protection and protection of individuals and communities' health. As part of our activities, measurement, monitoring, and verification forms part of our central activities, working together with state institutions, ministries, over 8,000 private clients, and with our 700 plus accredited methods, we try to essentially provide assurance and confidence, not only to the state, but to the individuals that the water that they drink is safe. In Slovenia, we're fortunate enough that we have, over very clean drinking water. Over 90% of our, drinking water comes from underground water resources. And we, over the last couple of years or, decades, we've been putting these sources under stress, whether that's from industrial activities, intense farming, but also individuals, because sometimes we don't really keep in mind what we flush down the toilet. So the message I want to come across, and that I'm going to try to make across over the next 2 days, is cooperation. I think, as I mentioned before, cooperation between institutions, government institutions, laboratories such as ourselves, and individuals as well is absolutely important. So awareness raising. And I think it's important that the messages in today and tomorrow's panels are not only kept in this vacuum, but also shared elsewhere. So I'm really looking forward to fruitful discussions. I think it's important that we not only keep these discussions today and then continue on and see you next year as well. And I'm always, every time we give these introductory speeches, I'm always want to conclude with a quote. I think one of the most memorable one for me is from an American author, Thomas Fuller, who said that we don't realize the value of water until the well is dry. I think that holds true also for other things in life. So let us not start valuing water and other things until once they are gone. So let's all do our best in protecting water. Every individual, every institution has something to contribute to, and I think that's something we need to emphasize more and more. So thank you again, and I look forward to discussions over the next 2 days. Thanks.
So, thank you, Dr. Marko, for that introduction and your insight. I must say, where I'm from in London, yes, we can drink tap water, but I've had the opportunity to drink the tap water in Slovenia, and I would describe it as soft, creamy, sweet. And that is a description of water. Yes, Slovenia has amazing tap water, but it comes down to the routine testing of these waters to provide confidence to the consumer. And what's really amazing with Marko's introduction is that the Slovenian ministry, the organizations are not complacent in regards to providing confidence, and they do a number of tests to continue to provide the confidence to the consumer, despite knowing that the water quality here is very, very good. So it's definitely a demonstration of continued research, knowledge, and testing. So with that, I would like to introduce our next guest is Mariam Khan, the Executive Director at Community Development Foundation in Pakistan, founder and Vice President of the GWDN, and founder and President of the IWDC from 2021 to 2031. Dear guests, so while we wait for the usual Zoom connections that plague our communications, I would like to introduce the youth representatives of Neža, Ferjan, and Mulec and Matija Pretnar from Bled Primary School. And I just want to say, as a water consultant, I believe, and it makes me so happy to see the younger generation getting involved at this level, because without them, and the knowledge that we pass down to them and their experiences that they want to share with us in regards to water and keeping clean, safe drinking water is the future. And I must say, I'm absolutely honored that we have these guests from the local primary school. And a bit later on, you may see some of the work that they have created on the board here. I would encourage you to please come and have a look at this, because there's some very inspirational work that's created. So with further ado, would you like to come up? Thank you.
Hello, my name is Neža Mulec Ferjan.
Hello, my name is Matija Pretnar.
We are students at the local primary school, and today we would like to voice our opinion on the topic of water, especially the danger it is in due to excessive tourism in Bled and the pollution that the mass tourism is causing.
First living beings evolved in water. Human body is also 65% made out of water, and there would be no life without it.
As citizens of Bled, we are aware of the mass tourism and the amount of pollution that the lake experiences, but we also do realize that tourism is one of the most important things that Bled has to contribute financially. One of the tourism has been a prominent attraction for the past century. Although in the start with Sir, okay. I'm not done. The lake is the jewel of our town, and preserving it is crucial to Bled, not only for us citizens, but also for tourists who came here to enjoy it. We are not the only ones that benefit from the lake. There are many animals and plants in it that we must consider. Having a clean lake is not a polluted one isn't only a necessity for us, but also for every other species that lives in and around it.
Clear water in Slovenia, I think it's people take it for granted, but I don't think they should. They should appreciate the clear water we have. I think we should limit tourism. We should limit who can build hotels, where the hotels can be built, to reduce the pollution of the lake and surrounding waters.
Even though we are still young, we know the importance of keeping the environment clean. Our school is zero waste, and it has been since 2014, so over 8 years. That means we reduce the amount of plastic. In fact, we don't use any plastic. This year in school, we are taught about environment and how we as humans pollute it. In fact, we made these posters. Sadly, they're only in Slovenian, but next year I've been informed that they will be in English. This year, we also joined the project Plastic Pirates, in which with the school parliament, we went around the local water bodies and we collected waste around them and made the measurements of how much there is waste in the water and on the shores. In school, we also promote drinking water. In fact, when we have excursions. We promoted that we take our own bottles and we fill them with tap water rather than buying bottled water. We are taught about pollution, microplastics, and how humans carelessly live. That humans carelessly live in their environment. In addition to that, we are taught how to reduce it ourselves and how to preserve the earth. It is important for us to show that we care. We care about our waters. We care about what we leave for the next generation, and we care about what the previous generation will leave for us. That's why I think it's important that we reduce tourism, because mass tourism, it affects water, especially right now. We and our teachers that are here with us came here by bikes. And while we were riding around the lake, we saw that there was algae on the lake surface, and that's caused by the excessive amounts of phosphates, which come from the pollution. And since this is only the start of the tourist season, it's very concerning that it's already this polluted.
I think we should raise awareness among us children and teenagers, because Neža already told you about the algae on the surface of the lake. And if we don't do something, there may not be free access to the lake anymore in the coming years. And I think we should really do something when we still can.
On the things that we can do about mass tourism, as I said before, tourism is an important part of Bled's income, in fact, of the whole Slovenian income. But as he said before, of the limited building of hotels, we should also have more often frequent cleaning actions when it comes to it. This year, we also attended it with school, and we cleaned around the shore while the scuba divers cleaned the inside of the lake. And we in fact pulled out, I believe it was 50 kilograms of it, but I'm not complete, 500 kilograms of it. So we've cleaned quite a lot. But we should also clean around shores. I believe in some cities, they already have that in the middle of the night, some workers come and each night they clean out the city. I believe that should be done, especially around the lake. Thank you.
Okay, so wow, year 9, Bled Primary School, taking action. One note from your conversation, you mentioned we're young. Yes, you are, but I strongly believe age should not have an influence in regards to the action that you want to take as younger individuals in society, and also the support that you would receive from ministers, the Bled Water Foundation, the festivals. It's all here. So I strongly feel that your contribution to making Bled and other cities, and the ideas and the thoughts that you have should be continued, and don't let your age be in the way, because your thoughts and ideas will be completely different to ours because you experience and see things in a different way. So fantastic contribution, and please continue doing what you're doing. It's very special, definitely. So thank you. Right, so we are on to our next guest. We have Leah Glâtre, the Foundation, Prince Albert II de Monaco. So please welcome Leah.
So I don't know if you have my slides, maybe. Thank you. So, dear Minister, Mr. Mayor, ladies and gentlemen, it's a real pleasure to be with you today and to discover for the very first time this beautiful city of Bled. Thank you to the organizer for making the Bled Water Festival possible. And thank you very much for inviting the Prince Albert II of Monaco Foundation. So, sustainable access to water is one of the 3 priority investment areas of the Prince Albert II of Monaco Foundation. So clean water is in fact many things. It is a vital need, a home, a local and global resource, a transport corridor, and a climate regulator. Clean water is not simply a vital need, it is also a resource we benefit from every day. But is it well preserved? Next slide, please. While water in general covers more than 70% of the Earth's surface, only 2.5% of it is fresh water. Today, water is under extreme threat. As the global population grows, the demand for clean water and safe water increases. But at the same time, human activity and climate change are disrupting natural water cycles, putting freshwater ecosystems under pressure. Next slide, please. Poor water management, pollution, infrastructure development, and resource extraction further exacerbate the negative impacts on our freshwater ecosystems. Main threats are also the agriculture, the sedimentation, invasive species, and overall the climate crisis. Despite its low coverage, they are home to 12% of all known species. However, they have an extinction rate 4 to 6 times higher than marine organisms. It is essential to conserve ecosystems, either playing a key role by contributing to human development and well-being. Indeed, they provide a lot of ecosystem services essential for us, for example, drinking water or irrigation for crops. And that's not all. Freshwater ecosystems are part of the solution to fight against climate change, thanks to the nature-based solutions they provide. So regarding the Mediterranean basin, the situation is critical. Almost half of the wetlands have disappeared since 1970, and since 1993, freshwater vertebrates population have declined by an average of 28%. Today, on all these remaining species, 36% are considered as endangered. This is why we have launched, next slide, please, sorry. This is why we have launched with the Maver Foundation and Gajić Charity Foundation, the Donors Initiative for Mediterranean Freshwater Ecosystems, or DIMF to shorten it. So next slide, please. Created last year in 2021, DIMF is built on the deep expertise and long-lasting in freshwater conservation, and joined forces by creating this initiative, which aims to protect, conserve, and restore freshwater ecosystem in the Mediterranean basin, looking at rivers, lakes, marshes, pit dogs. So why focus on Mediterranean? First, we believe that to have a better impact and to have results, we should not spread ourselves too thin and instead start by focus on a specific area. Second, as I said earlier, Mediterranean is in need. The situation is critical and due to the considerable pressure on natural resources. Next slide, please. So to participate fully in this challenge, DIMF aims to support projects with a strong impact in the field. For the period 2021 to 2023, we have a budget of 4 million euros. Our first call for projects was launched last year, resulting in the support of 6 projects in Albania, Bosnia and Herzegovina, Croatia, Greece, Malta, and Morocco, for a total amount of about 2,100,000 euros. To understand better what kind of actions DIMF is supporting, I'm going to give you some examples. So for example, in Albania, the project is to improve the management of a protected area, including the conservation of 200 species of birds present in the area. In Malta, a freshwater wetland is being rehabilitated. In Croatia, they are restoring 10 priority sites in the Croatian Cas Mountains. And the last one in Morocco, a water fund was initiated in 2019. It is like a sustainable funding mechanism that benefits local communities responsible for natural resources management in the upper Cebu Basin. So it is the first fund of its kind in Middle East and North Africa. And now they're working to extend this fund to cover the entire basin. So as you can see, we are supporting projects that we believe can have a real impact in the future. To scaling up our action and to spread our impact, we are currently working to launch on the 31st of August, our second calls for projects. So it is possible to improve the current situation. Those approaches can be used to tackle this issue and to enable a more effective and strategic action. But for this, collaboration among donors, among actors in the field, scientists, philanthropists, and local leaders is essential. In that spirit, we wish to expand DIMF by welcoming new private or public actors interested in joining us to conserve together freshwater ecosystem in the Mediterranean. Next slide, please. So thank you to the Bled Water Festival, which is bringing together representatives of governments, NGOs, and innovators, all committed to this major challenge that water is. I'm looking forward to listening to the panels and discussions that will take place today and tomorrow, that I'm sure will be very productive. If you wish to know more about DIMF or interested in joining us, do not hesitate to come to talk to me or to contact me by email. So thank you very much for your attention, and thank you again to the organizers.
Thank you, Leah. That was a very, very informative introduction. And I really like the fact that you are looking locally first to provide solutions and understand the water cycle, and taking that knowledge from local understanding and taking that to a wider audience. I think it's how I'd like to say bite-sized chunks first before being able to solve the global water problem. So I think that was absolutely refreshing, the approach that the Foundation, Prince Albert II of Monaco has taken. So very good. Right, so our next guest is Heather Peachland, CEO, founder of Water is Life, affiliation to 5 African countries. So please welcome Heather. So good morning, Heather. Are you on mute? If you could please unmute yourself, Heather. Hello, Heather. Unmute.
Good morning.
Can
you hear me clearly?
Yep. Oh, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Oh, live and direct. We can hear you, Heather. Welcome.
Thank you so much. I had to get away from the area. I think it was the double connection.
Okay. Could we?
But thank you so much, everyone.
Volume, please.
Can you hear me now?
We have some echo.
I have some feedback. Can I get 1 minute?
Yeah. Okay. What? Yeah, of course. Yep.
I'm back. Apologies.
We'll come back. Okay. So while we reconnect with Heather, I would like to introduce our honorary guest, Minister Uroš Brežan, Minister of the Environment and Spatial Planning of the Republic of Slovenia, a very special guest and also honorary sponsor and co-organizer of Bled Water Festival. And I must say, what a great festival that they've put together so far, with all of the media work that's been placed out there, and also the setting that we're in today, and also with the panel discussions that we will have continued from today and tomorrow. It's created something truly unique in the world of water, and so we would like to welcome him.
To be honest, hearing words like tender, creamy, and sweet, my first thought would be coffee. But it is really interesting to see what's the perception of our greatest national fortune by someone who is visiting. But ladies and gentlemen, let me start by saying that we are proud that Ministry of the Environment and Spatial Planning has been participating in the Bled Water Festival for many years now. The festival makes an important contribution to water innovations in Southeast Europe and co-creates global water trends in understanding drinking water. I believe that it's particularly important to raise awareness of water for better quality of life with fresh ideas, good practice, example, and exchange from business sector and national projects. Innovative and sustainable solutions for the conservation of the aquatic environment and water resources are and will be increasingly important. And I'm also pleased to see ever more countries and institutions are participating in these projects. And I believe that we are creating here an inclusive and fair partnership for the future. At the Ministry of Environment and Spatial Planning, we are aware of the importance of responsible management of water resources for a secure future. That's why we are dedicating approximately 700 million euros till 2030 for the projects of drinking water, flood safety, and wastewater discharge and treatment. And this will be one of the greatest challenges of Slovenia and of our ministry. The Bled Water Festival will undoubtedly continue to be successful in promoting innovative and green solutions for a healthy future. And dear guests, let the ideas flow here and the good practices exchange. I wish everyone great creativity at the Bled Water Festival, and I'm looking forward to our future cooperation. Thank you.
So, Minister Brežan, thank you for that comment. From my point of view, I would really wish that you would call Boris Johnson and the environmental ministers in the UK, maybe after their partying has finished, to explain how to create and how to get involved with organizations like the Bled Water Festival so that we can learn from what you are doing here in Slovenia. And maybe you could tell Boris and the ministers, don't call it a party, call it a festival. Yeah, okay. So first round of panel one. How drinking water affects my body. So we've got some very special guests, Darja Repnik from the National Laboratory of Health and Environment and Food, Slovenia, and Márta Vargha, Head of Water Hygiene Working Group in National Public Center of Hungary. So please welcome our special panelists. Hello. Yeah.
Good morning.
Mic check, mic check.
Hello, good morning, everyone. Can you hear me?
So, welcome, Márta and Darja. Thank you for attending in person and online. We can see you crystal clear. Can you hear us and everything's fine?
Yes, I do hear you. Can you hear me? Do you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Okay, so is that okay?
Yep.
Right. Yeah, okay, let's make a start. So, the first panel at the Bled Water Festival is how drinking water affects my body. I'm super curious in regards to this. We all know that water is there for our to sustain us for hydration purposes, but please share your thoughts, your knowledge in regards to how drinking water affects my body. And we'll start with you, Márta, please.
Thank you so much. That's nice to be able to start on such a subject. And I'm really glad to be here, even though I cannot be there in person, which would be lovely. Bled is a lovely place, so I'm really sorry about that. But this is the only mean I could join today. So when I think about how drinking water affects our body, we should probably start with quantity. You have mentioned hydration, but there are aspects we don't usually think about. For instance, how not just when we don't drink enough water, we don't just start feeling thirsty. It also affects our cognitive abilities. It's especially important in children. It's well been established that school children who don't consume sufficient amounts of water during the day will be less able to concentrate in school. They might experience headache or fatigue. And it might be attributed to other sources of or effects, but it's actually the effect of dehydration. So number one is always with quantity and always the need to consume sufficient quantities of water. And we all know how much better for our health consuming water is compared to sugary beverages. And this is also something very important for children. But if we go beyond quantity, then of course we come to quality, and that's also something of key importance. First, we usually, when we talk about water quality, most people start to think about contaminants. But let's not start with contaminants. Let's start with the wholesome nutrients the drinking water provides us for our body. And it is true for tap water. It's true for mineral water, that it contains minerals that are essential and beneficial for our health. Maybe I would highlight potassium and magnesium, both of which are essential elements for our body. And they are found in high quantities in mineral water, in most mineral waters, and also in tap water. And they are actually absorbed better from water than they are absorbed from food. When we think of potassium intake, we usually think about dairy products. Or when we talk about magnesium intake, we talk about things like almonds, for instance, or leafy vegetables. But both of these are present in drinking water, and they are absorbed much better from water because of the absence of interfering compounds than they are from food. They might drinking water might attribute to 20% of our intake for these elements. Potassium has a well-known protective effect against osteoporosis, so it's good for our bones. And magnesium is essential against, or it's a protective. Magnesium, the presence of magnesium in drinking water was shown to be protective against vascular and heart disease. So both of these are absolutely essential. But I could list several more, like fluoride, for instance, or iodine in some cases, but those are more variable depending on the source of the water. But these probably the main components I would highlight from drinking water. Thank you.
Thank you. Definitely some great insight. And I love the fact that you started off with the benefits, the healthy minerals in water. Normally, the media that we listen to in regards to water is always the unwanted contaminants is always discussed first before the healthy minerals and elements in the water that make it so fantastic. So yes, great. Thank you for that insight. And then over to you, Darja, just in regards to your introduction.
It's already said a lot of things. I would just add that water represent around 60 to 70% of body weight, and it plays an important role in regulating body temperature, supplying cells with oxygen through the blood, flushing waste products, and also protect the organs and connective tissues. So it's very important that the water we drink is good quality.
So in regards to the discussions already, we are identifying that water is there for hydration purposes, but then also the element of health and well-being with the beautiful minerals that Mother Nature dissolves into the waters that we drink. So I just wanted to understand from you both in regards to having a balance of, say, tap water in the morning, maybe then having a natural mineralized water as part of a diet or drinking during the day. What is your thoughts on this balance of having tap water and then special mineral waters as part of a healthy diet, a balanced diet?
Should I start, or would it be Darja?
To you, Márta, please.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, it's difficult to make eye contact through a video. So I wasn't sure. Yes, I think both are very beneficial to our health. And it depends, of course, people usually tend to think that tap water is one kind of quality and then mineral water is another kind of quality. When the fact is that depending on the source, both tap water and mineral water can have a very diverse a combination of nutrients. And this should be taken into account when we choose our means of hydration. For instance, just as an example, in Hungary, I've mentioned that potassium and magnesium are really important for health. And in Hungary, the hardness of water, of tap water, which relates to the potassium and magnesium content, it starts from the range covered by tap water in Hungary starts from 8 milligram per liter calcium oxide equivalents, and it goes up to 358. So it's like 40 times the amount of calcium and potassium and magnesium in the water in different parts of the country. And I think the diversity we see in mineral water can be even higher. Just looking at the whole mineral content of water, of mineral waters produced in Hungary, the mineral content can start from 500 milligrams per liter and can go up to 5 grams of grams of liter. So then again, we have a tenfold increase in the mineral content. And when we go beyond just quantity and we look into the diversity of ions being there, then the variety is even greater. So this is something people usually don't take into account when they choose the way of hydration. I would say for someone who lives in an area of the country where the natural content of potassium and magnesium in the tap water is low, those should be choosing a higher magnesium, potassium content mineral water to supplement their intake. If someone has a tap water that's naturally high in fluoride, for instance, then they should select a mineral water to complement, which is low on fluoride. So this is something we don't think about. I think most people do not think about, and these should be taken into account. It's easier to do with the mineral water, since you just look at the back of the bottle and you see, even though not everyone is familiar with the names of the minerals that are listed there, or the quantities that are necessary for the body or beneficial for the body. It's more difficult, even though the data is available usually on drinking water as well. Most, I don't know how it's in Slovenia, but I would assume that most drinking water providers do provide data on water quality, and also public health authorities. At least that's what's being done in Hungary. That data is being provided by both the suppliers and the public health authorities. But this data usually, as you mentioned, focuses on the absence of contaminants. Hopefully not the presence, but the absence of contaminants. But it does not necessarily reflect information on the beneficial micronutrients. So I think, and that's something that's also been addressed in the recast of the European Drinking Water Directive recently. Then more information should be provided to the public on those elements of drinking water which are beneficial to the body.
Thank you for that insight, Márta. Definitely, I totally agree that the information is there if it's on bottled mineral water in regards to the mineral composition that's within, but then also having access to the data of your tap water to understand the calcium, magnesium, bicarbonate levels in there. And for me, the take home from your message is you can create a balance of tap water and also bottled water to increase your health and well-being elements and not over excess mineral intake. So I totally agree that yes, there has to be more positive access to this information to allow the consumer to create their personal drinking water for health and well-being that will have a positive impact, and also understand the element of contaminants. But if we were to switch it around and talk about the benefits first and also access the contaminants, then it definitely does provide the consumer with a better understanding of what they're drinking and how they're drinking it. So and Darja, is there anything that you'd like to add to that?
Yes, I would just like to say that, as Marko already said, in Slovenia, we have very good quality drinking water. Around 96% of analyzed samples are very good, and it meets the requirements from drinking water rules. And this is why I would like to say that for daily consumption, is water in Slovenia good enough? Yes, it has enough minerals, it's clean enough, and we check the quality of drinking water in Slovenia in two monitorings. The first is national monitoring. In this monitoring, we check the compliance of drinking water at the type of consumers, and it checks the compliance with the requirements that drinking water must meet in order to protect human health. This monitoring is the responsibility of the Ministry of Health, and it's carried out by the National Laboratory for Health and Environment and Food. And in this monitoring, we check the drinking water quality in the areas that supply more than 50 users, if at least 10 cubic meters of water is supplied per day, or if a public facility is located on the supply area. And the other monitoring is the internal control. This internal control is responsibility of drinking operator, and on the boat monitoring we can every day see the results. So for national monitoring we see the results at the website www.mpv.si, and at the internal control we can see the results on operator's website. So I think that the quality of our water is so high that it's good enough, and it's enough if we drink only this water.
Well, again, beautiful insight in regards to the amount of testing that is undertaken for you to analyze the data and provide that data back again to the consumers for consumer confidence. As part of this panel, Karlo, Guštin, Head of Strategic Initiatives, Ericsson, Nikola, from Croatia. Yes. Hi, welcome. It's always a red button, isn't it?
It's okay. Hi, good morning, everyone.
So, Karlo, in regards to the amazing work that you've been doing with Ericsson, Nikola, and Tesla, in 2018, you were awarded by Bled Festival for innovation. So, reading on the background of, the testing of waters, etc., could you let the audience know from 2018 being awarded at Bled Water Festival, how that has helped in regards to getting more information technology in regards to water testing out in the public domain, and the special element of having the public involved with this testing and the data that's being captured, being sent back to the labs for testing. If you could just give us a brief overview of this.
Okay, thanks. Well, the project that was awarded here on Bled in 2018 has actually evolved quite a lot. It started as a corporate idea that we can manage and use IT as a tool to define the water quality. And back then we were focusing on open water, fresh water that is available in the nature. And we wanted to see how we can use IT to also include local communities, or maybe some specific groups of citizens, such as, I don't know, hikers or backpackers or whatever, and to help them by the technology and to make them be able to identify the water quality that they find in the nature. So it involved a lot of crowdsourcing activities, and the idea was to build, let's say, a prototype, a specific sensor that could fit in your bottle that you take along with you. And the idea was that you could get certain kind of information. Well, that was back in 2018, and that was actually when we first started thinking, what can we do with IT in the water? And there was a lot of learning along the way. Actually, that project idea, as I said, has evolved. It was never implemented in the original way. However, we still are there, let's say, on the margins of the idea, but with the new consortium and with the new project background, let's put it this way. The first thing that we've learned is, you can't estimate drinking water quality without a lab. Still, coming from technology, from IT, we always want to have a machine or a software to identify things in the water. But then, bacteria, chemicals, and so on, this is something that we could never address. As we worked on the project, it was 2 years later that we applied for a EU funding in Croatia. And we have partnered with Croatian Public Health Institution. And we've turned our focus to addressing the effects of the drinking water coming from the water distribution on citizens' health. So apart from only focusing on public water distribution, we have also focused on what we call, let's call it local water distribution, which is actually certain smaller villages or smaller, most villages, where there's no water distribution infrastructure nearby. People need water, and then, for example, the local community would know that there's a spring nearby. Then they go up, they put the pipe in the hill, take the lines and bring the water to them. This kind of water is monitored, as we learned, in certain frequencies. But not continuously, because it's not infrastructure owned by the government. So it depends a lot of the owners of the infrastructure. Sometimes they will not allow local authorities to come to check the water. So this is also another part of the project that we're focusing on. It's actually a wider consortium. Ericsson, Nikola, Tesla is a head of consortium. Then, of course, the most important partner from domain experts coming from Croatian Public Health Institution, and 2 smaller companies. One is focused on building a specific sensor, and the other one is building a mobile app that should be used by the citizens to get more information about their water.
Fantastic. I think the key element there was the citizens being able to monitor the water with your IoT and the sensors. So again, it's allowing the citizens, the individuals that are consuming the water, to take part in the water monitoring activities and being able to provide additional data. So my question, Márta, with this additional data, with new technologies of IoT sensors, more individuals on the ground taking samples, does this allow you to react, to understand the different mineral compositions of the water and contaminants a lot quickly, and being able to allow that information to then be distributed to communities to make better choices in where they source their water for drinking? What benefits of this collaboration do you see?
Thank you very much, Marko, and thank you for this interesting introduction to this new technology. This is very exciting. To begin with, maybe I would shortly outline how drinking water is monitored in Hungary. Of course, the system is very similar to what you have in Slovenia, that both the water supply operators take samples and analyze them regularly, and also the public health authorities. So these are already two complementary sources of information. This quality monitoring extends to over 60 parameters of the water, both basic composition and also contaminants. The data is not made accessible to the consumers as frequently as you do. I think that's an excellent way of doing it. But in Hungary, we usually publish yearly averages and ranges of quality information. So it's not single data on an actual measurement, but it's more of a typical value. The reason behind it is because sometimes there are single contamination events. Water quality in Hungary is also excellent. It's the vast majority of the samples is compliant with the drinking water regulation, but of course there are always occasional contaminations happening or in some water supply systems. And we feel that if this information, of course, if it's something that's relevant to health, then it's immediately communicated. If there is a contamination, that would be a problem for the consumers, even on, for instance, there is a nitrate appearance in the drinking water, which would be harmful for babies and pregnant mothers, then it's immediately communicated, and alternate means of water supplies is provided for those who are vulnerable. But occasional non-compliances with parameters like iron, for instance, or manganese, which are not affecting human health, but having a non-compliance is always scary to consumers. They think, well, if it's non-compliant, I'm sure it's harmful. And this is the message we want to avoid. And therefore we are communicating the rate of non-compliance over a year, the typical value or the representative value of that parameter per water supply system. Now, this is the baseline. This is how we do it now. I think employing citizen science in drinking water quality monitoring is an excellent addition, not only to gain a more detailed information on water quality, which is also a benefit since we are getting, normally we will be monitoring representative points within the water supply system, whereas applying citizen science, you would get information from more sources, from more points. That's one benefit already. But I think what's at least as important is that the awareness of the consumer will be raised by participation. So they have hands-on experience on the water quality. It's not just a number they read from the website of the water supplier or the public health office. But this is something they can personally relate to. This is a sample I've collected, and this is a sample I've measured. So they probably will trust the data more if they have more connection to it. So I think that's an additional benefit. I don't think it will ever supersede, the regulatory authority monitoring, but it might be a welcome addition to it, and might be beneficial to increase trust in tap water quality, which is something that's very important. Thank you.
Just perhaps I would like to briefly more in a bit more detail explain the whole story. So yes, definitely one part is citizen science and collecting the data. However, in the long term, but you know, our partners come here at the roundtable a bit later can explain in more details. In short, you know, the idea on the national level is to bring those, let's call them local, privately owned water distribution systems to be part of the whole distribution network, and then of course the national monitoring will take place. And this is also, I mean, done in Croatia, I believe, in a similar way as in Slovenia. But also, you know, the solution that we're proposing and developing is not only used for those, let's call them private, non-regulated water distribution system, but also for the big city size water distribution networks, where we have identified a certain number of use cases where IoT sensors that can collect the data continuously can benefit the existing monitoring model that is in place already. So for example, there are a few use cases that we've seen, but for example, one of those is when you have water distribution networks that are more like a star shape, you know, not a circular one, then in those end parts of the distribution. Sometimes in Croatia, you have small villages, they get the water, but no one lives in the houses, so the water stays in the pipes. So this is an interesting case where you can continuously monitor, learn what's going on with the water, not only for the purpose of identifying potential impacts on health, but also providing the data to water distribution companies on how they can maintain their infrastructure, you know, to take out the sludge or whatever needs to be done. So there's quite a lot of things, but this is more, I would say, part of the national health and the monitoring. So I think it's better that partners talk about this side of the project.
Definitely from the conversations here, it's absolutely fascinating where at Bled Water Festival, we're connecting IoT, IT data analysis, and then being able to provide this information to our traditional lab testing and analyzing, I think is definitely the way forward. And the take home for me is progressing the relationship with the consumers to be part of this. And it's definitely one where people do participate in assisting with the testing and data, that in their mindset that they're doing this, and it will change their mindset in regards to how they interact with water and what they put down the drain, because at some point it will be coming back to their tap. So
yeah, definitely. We're always talking, when we're talking IT and IoT, for example, and sensors, mostly, you know, IoT is buzzword, connected sensors, mobile networks. This is a hot topic now, but also we need to look at other open data that is available. Meteo data that can be quite relevant for the water quality that we're drinking, but also satellite imaging. You know, but if you have a surface water capture in Croatia, it's mostly, as far as I understand, underground water. But in certain countries, you can have surface water capture for the drinking, and then you can use satellite data to analyze certain parameters in the water, you know, chlorophyll and so on. You can estimate the level of the trophic level index. So it's quite complex. But what we're always saying, we want to add data robustness to the system. So yes, we realize there's data already. People are working in it, but we see opportunity to add new data and predictive analytics to provide new services to the system and to the citizens.
Fantastic. That's beautiful insight. Darja, would you like to add anything to this in regards to, do you see the influence of this data capture in assisting you and your team in the actual lab testing? Or do you see the benefits of it already?
I think it's great that also the society is involved in this circle, because also any user can do something for better water. And I think that in Slovenia, we have already done a lot of this side, because every day we teach users that they don't use toilets as rubbish bins, they not put oil into them, or also they don't use a lot of medicines, and that they that if they use, or we all use different cosmetics, body product, that they don't involve microplastic. So a lot of those things are important for our water quality. And I think that we are very lucky that more than 90% of our drinking water sources are underground water sources. So they are a little bit protected from external influences. And if people know that everything what they do come back, they will be more careful what they do, I think so. And we have to teach children already how important it is that we don't use a lot of water, we don't waste it, and in every day we can do a lot for our drinking water. So,
and I think it's a very valid point that you've made in regards to what gets flushed down the toilet or put down to the sink, and you know, the rise of pharmaceutical drugs, solvents, elements that we wash our clothes with, etc. If we have a true better understanding of what detergents to use and what not to use, and what should be put into a bin for safe disposal, is a very fundamental element, because you're true. What we put down at some point will come back. And also the point in regards to the children and the schools that were involved as well, this style of education, you know, of combining good practices with IT technologies, and then for the students that want to be wearing the white lab coats and doing the testing in the labs, it's all one circle where it's all joined up. So Yeah.
Another thing that I mean we need to have in mind, you know, today we're talking about drinking water, so focusing on water distribution systems and water distribution companies, but also we need to be aware of the impact of the industry, you know, of the whole industry sector on the drinking water. You say, you know, we need to be careful what we flush down the toilets, but then the industry has a lot of wastewater and it's treated in different ways. Mostly it's okay because they need to send some reports to the regulator and so on. But what we're saying also to the industry, like, look, guys, it's not only what you do within your factory and then how it affects drinking water through the wastewater, but we're saying you should also, the industry should also take care and motivate, you know, all of the stakeholders along the value chain, you know. So you're saying students, of course, they might be consumers of your product, you know, and then also suppliers. And if you look how companies affect environment, you'll see that around 90 or 80% of their total environment footprint comes from the tails of the value chain, you know, not from their direct business process, what they're doing, unless it's some very dirty industry, of course. So what we're saying, this kind of initiatives such as citizen science, crowdsourcing, or whatever, could and should be also motivated by the industry as well, trying to change the behavior of their consumers, because this is the only way to do it.
Yeah, and I totally agree with those comments. And from a personal point, I would like to see more of this from the industries where we use these products, and being more engaging and more open in regards to the why. Why should we change our behavior with their products, and be more open and honest in regards to the substances that are in these waters? Yes, they may be safe for us to use, but once into the water network, it's a different reaction that could occur. So I think that's a very, very good way of looking at things, and the technology side of things will help industry monitor this and make changes quickly with the data that's being provided.
Yeah, and I mean, even more, if you look at the trends in the market, then you can see the sustainable development, you know, circular economy. Those are very important trends, and I think this will be impacting the behavior of the industry as well. And at the same side, you know, there is this strong push in non-financial reporting, you know, ESG, the environment, social, and governance, what you're doing. So the companies will need to do something. We need to, you know, we need to have the whole ecosystem of the stakeholders coming from the government, from NGOs, from industries such as ours providing solutions, to push them also towards, you know, thinking about the water, because now the CO2 emissions is hot topic and most probably will be very in the focus in the next years, but water is here as well.
I think from the sensor technologies that you are offering and putting out into the field, you mentioned on CO2, pumping water takes a huge amount of energy, huge amount, and many individuals or consumers are not aware of this. Can you or do your sensors at the moment provide this type of information in regards to pressure in the system, leaks in the system? Can that data also be obtained to contribute and collaborate with the labs in regards to water quality, distribution, and leaks?
Yeah, I mean, pressure and leaks and this kind of, you know, information general about how the water distribution works, this already exists. You know, it's not that we have reinvented the wheel or something, because there's sensors, there's some certain systems. What we're offering is a little bit different approach. We're saying this data is fine, you know how to operate your distribution network. What we want to focus on is on water quality on top of the analysis that is done already. And we want to use advanced IT systems such as, you know, AI, deep learning or whatever, and then to take all of those numbers and to take maybe the healthcare data to see, you know, how to check for certain disease types, and then to maybe to try to find a correlation or something, and to see how we can make the whole system better. So, but yes, with IoT, you know, you can use any sensor to collect the data and then to crunch it later on to provide new information.
That's absolutely fantastic. Is it? Yes, Márta.
May I have a question?
Yes.
Yeah, thank you very much. I was just, I'm actually see two, well, as you call them, use cases, and I'm wondering if your technology would be helpful in that, because for one, we don't have these private communities or community supplies, as you've mentioned in Croatia, but we do have private well users, and we have
I think I didn't.
You don't hear me?
No, I hear, but I didn't pick up. You don't have the community, but you have.
We don't have private community suppliers, so it's either a public supply it's either covered by the entire regulation and monitoring system, or it's a private well. So it's a single household well. And usually that's where the data is scarce. From private wells, they are either not monitored at all, or if they do comply with the regulation, then they are monitored once in every 3 years, which is very scarce data. So I'm wondering if your technology would be useful in that.
Yes,
and the other side, I'm sorry, maybe I put both questions and then you go ahead. So the other side where we don't have enough data is on what happens once the water gets into the building. Because all national monitoring systems are collecting data on the supplied water. Even if the samples are taken in the consumer's tap, you cannot sample everyone's tap. It's impossible. So this is something we would need to know more of, what happens to within the building, because then we can, again, coming back to what Darja was saying about supplying information to the public in order so they can make good choices as to what not to flush down the toilet, but also good choices on how to use their own water system, what kind of materials to build in, flush the system after a time of stagnation, and that kind of information. And that if we have more finer scale data on what's happening within the building, I think that would be very useful. Thank you, and please go ahead.
Thanks for the question. The first case that you described, the single household and the well, yes, definitely the technology is implementable in that kind of use case. And it's pretty much the same as we have. The only difference is that in the cases that I have described, then you would have a pump in this well and it would be distributed to, I don't know, a handful of households using the same well. But the principle is the same. So yes, we are testing it. We are having a pilot right now, and we will be using those sensors. So I'd be glad to let you know how these things worked out.
Thank you.
And regarding the buildings, I mean, also this is also something that can be addressed with the technology. So the software part of the technology does not care if the sensor is in the building, if it's in distribution system or in a well. So from the software part and analytics, it's all the same. If we talk about the sensor, then yes, I would say again that the answer would be positive, because the sensor, innovative sensor that was developed through our project can easily be fitted on the standard pipes in the water distribution. So if you can put it, just before the house, where you have the meter for the water quantity, you can also measure certain parameters. Of course, at the moment we are measuring more or less basic physiochemical parameters, temperature, pH, turbidity, and so on. So still, if you want to measure certain micro, what do you call it? If you need measurements from the lab, specific measurements from the lab, then you won't be able to do this with the sensor. But you can have, for example, then people living in the household taking some tests, and then putting this data into the system, maybe as some kind of informational measurement, and then to decide if you need to take more of lab tests or not.
Thank you.
Welcome.
An element that you just mentioned was in regards to the buildings. So could you see these sensors assisting the utility end of things, but once that water enters, say, a large commercial building or an industrial factory, they will have that water distribution. In the UK, once it leaves the utilities and enters the premises of a building, then it becomes the landlord's responsibility to keep that water of a hygienic condition, to make sure the chemical parameters are correct for the end user. Could you see the technologies being used as part of this to keep the occupants, the staff, the visitors within large commercial buildings, if they're verticals, or the industrial aspect. Could that also be incorporated?
Yeah, it definitely could. You know, the only reason why we didn't go that way is the situation in Croatian market. I would say, you know, there's not so many big, you know, skyscrapers, commercial buildings where you have, you know, where owners would be financially strong enough to decide and to invest in this kind of systems. And as far as I understand, I might be wrong, but the regulation does not then push this way. So this is the reason why we have focused on water distribution, because then we can reach out to greater number of people. But in a market where that's regulated in this way, definitely, yeah, why not?
I think with the in-depth analysis and understanding from the utilities for potable drinking water supplies, applying that knowledge and tech to commercial buildings, if that region of the world requires that style of legislation to keep health and safety, to keep the occupants safe, I definitely see there's going to be a crossover from this, because it's very robust monitoring that you're doing.
Yeah, sure. I mean, this is what's in the market called today smart buildings, you know, smart whatever, you know. The idea is not only to monitor the water, but also to optimize the energy consumption, you know, because then also you have pumps or whatnot for the water. Or if you're in the industrial part in a factory, they have their own water distribution within their, you know, once you cross the fence. And, you know, believe it or not, but they also have water losses and similar issues, just as the public water distribution system. So it's, yeah, definitely it's implementable in various use cases.
It's very interesting to the audience. Can I just see a raise of hands based on these conversations with the technology, with the labs, with the robust testing? Could I just see a raise of hands if you feel that this provides you with more confidence in drinking water and understanding where your water is from? Okay, I would say about 50%. Yeah, not bad. We can, next year we will improve on this and we will see more hands up. But from my point of view, working in the water industry, this type of data is valuable to give consumer confidence.
But yeah, of course, this is what I would like to see. But, you know, we need to be realistic, and we need to understand that still you need an expert on the other side. You know, 100%. You need someone looking at that monitor and filtering this data, looking at some peaks, you know, what has happened, and then trying to answer the questions that might come out of this data, because still, you know, this is something that still cannot be replaced. Even with artificial intelligence in the future, you'll still need someone to look after this.
Yes, I totally agree. Because we still need that human touch. That human.
This is what will build the confidence, you know, because people do not trust technology, and we shouldn't think about technology, you know, for the purpose of technology. It has to be there to support experts in their work, and this is what we're after.
Yeah, and from the conversations from this panelist here, I definitely think you each complement each other with what you do in regards to the data, the analyzing, and again, consumer confidence. So yeah,
I believe, you know, that the other speakers could also, you know, add more to how we use this technology within our pilots, and how it's used in water distribution system, and how public health institutions can use this data, you know, for what purpose.
Definitely. Márta, would you like to add anything to this?
Maybe I would just reflect what you've been saying about industry responsibility, because when we talk about water quality in buildings, user habits are just one thing. It mainly depends on the quality of materials that are being used in the water distribution system within the building. So I think the new European regulation puts a lot of effort into a lot of stress on having good quality materials in the water distribution systems. But I think there is also an industry responsibility. So I'm sorry, do you hear noise when I'm speaking? I'm sorry about that. That's construction work outside. It just started it. I'm really sorry. But just to wrap up, this is just what I'm thinking of, is that we need not just regulation, but also sort of a conscience from the industry side that good quality materials are being produced, and they do focus on the potential effect their products can have on water quality. Thank you.
Thank you, Márta. That was a good insight from the other side, from water distributions then into commercial buildings or industrial applications. So just before we wrap up, Darja, would you like to, or?
I would just like to say that no matter what kind of water we drink, we should all bear in mind that all water sources are vulnerable and we have to be careful with them. We have to preserve both qualitatively and quantitatively. That would be all. Thank you.
And I think that was a beautiful way to wrap up this panel. So to our audience, if you could please give this panel a round of applause. I think it was. Thank you very much. And we are slightly early by 5 minutes, but I believe we will now take a coffee break. So please, or a water break. Please enjoy the refreshments, enjoy the beautiful sunshine outside, and we will see you back here at 11 a.m. Okay.